Yes, surely. Well, let's start with the expulsion of the diplomats. You mentioned there 23 are being expelled. Now, this makes up about 40% of the total number of diplomats that are here in the UK at the moment. Now, we haven't been told exactly which ones by name are being kicked out, but what we have been told is that they're the ones who've been identified as working as unregistered intelligence officers. We understand they've got about a week to leave. Now, it's the biggest expulsion of diplomats in this country in 30 years. If you go back to 1971, there was a much bigger expulsion. 90 diplomats were expelled, but back then the number of diplomats in the country was also much higher. Now, if we have a look at the other measures, the World Cup football, of course, was the one that was getting a lot of headlines earlier in the week, and we now have confirmation that the royal family and the official delegates, so government officials, won't be going to the World Cup. This probably won't bother Russia too much. Of course, there's no talk there that the team, the players themselves, won't be going to the World Cup. They'll still be going along. Also, interestingly, there was talk earlier in the week and even today that there may have been some moves to shut down some of the TV news stations, particularly one called RT here that is sponsored by the Russian government. There's been no mention of that today, but there was a mention of trying to strengthen the espionage legislation in this country and also looking at amending the legislation when it comes to the sorts of things like sanctions. Will this upset Russia? This is the big question. I don't think the UK acting alone here, surely, is going to bother them particularly too much. But what will bother them is that if the UK can gather its allies in NATO and convince the UN to also take some action, well then, of course, it becomes much more serious for Russia.